You've been trading for a while now, maybe months, maybe years, and you're sitting there, charts open, journal nearby, and you notice something uncomfortable. You're not losing because the market is random. You're not losing because your strategy is broken. You're losing because of you. Something about you keeps getting in the way. But here's the thing that actually makes it worse. You don't know what it is. You know it's you just don't know which part of you. And that confusion, that fog, that's what this video is about, that exact moment when a trader looks in the mirror and asks, what is going on with me? Most trading content loves to give you a list. Here are the 10 psychological mistakes traders make: fear, greed, revenge trading, overconfidence. It's all real. It's all valid, but here's the problem. When you're in that fog, you read the list and everything on it sounds like you and nothing on it sounds exactly like you. So you start diagnosing yourself, maybe it's fear. No, wait, I took that trade I shouldn't have, so maybe it's greed. But then I froze on a perfect setup. So maybe it's fear again. And before you know it, you're 3 YouTube rabbit holes deep. You've got 5 trading psychology books in your cart and you feel more confused than when you started. This is what I call the diagnosis trap. The diagnosis trap is when a trader knows something is psychologically wrong, but they're applying surface level labels to what is actually a deep, specific personal pattern. Saying, I have FOMO is like a patient walking into a hospital and saying, I have pain, it's true, it's real. But it tells the doctor almost nothing. The doctor needs to know, where is the pain, when does it happen, what makes it better or worse. Most traders never get past the label. They stay stuck at I have fear or I have greed, and those labels become an identity rather than a diagnosis. So the very first thing to understand about this fog you're in, this what's going on with me confusion, is that it's not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you're using the wrong tools to examine yourself. You're using a broad brushstroke when you need a scalpel. Why this confusion feels so specific? Here's what makes this phase uniquely painful. It's not the early phase of trading where you didn't know what you didn't know. That phase has its own problems, but at least there's a kind of innocence to it. And it's not the phase where you've figured yourself out and you're working on a clear, defined issue. That phase is hard, but at least there's direction. This fog phase, the what's going on with me phase, sits right in between. You've developed enough self-awareness to know that your psychology is the problem, but not enough self-awareness to identify what the actual problem is. That middle ground is brutal because you're awake enough to see the problem, but you don't have the flashlight yet to see it clearly. And here's something that makes it worse. Your problem might not look like what you think a psychological problem looks like. A lot of traders imagine psychological issues as dramatic events. A revenge trade after a big loss, panicking and closing a position at the worst possible moment. Massive account blow-up driven by emotions. But for many traders, maybe even most, the psychological damage is quiet, it's subtle, it's the trade you almost took but didn't. The one that would have been a 3R winner, and you can't quite explain why you hesitated. You just didn't feel right about it. It's the position size you quietly reduced, not because your system said to, but because something felt off, and the trade worked perfectly, and now you feel both relieved and furious at yourself. It's the way your breathing changes when a trade moves against you by a certain amount. Nobody sees that. Your journal doesn't capture it, but it's there. These quiet patterns are harder to diagnose than the dramatic ones, which is why the fog lingers. The 3 types of what's going on with me, let me give you a framework. In my experience, when traders are in this confused phase, they're usually experiencing one of 3 things, or some combination of all 3. Type 1, the inconsistency confusion. This trader performs well in some conditions and poorly in others, but can't identify why the conditions are different. They have winning weeks and losing weeks, and when they look back, they can't find a clear variable. The strategy looks the same, the market conditions look similar enough, but the results are wildly different. What's actually happening here is that there are hidden triggers, psychological states that affect performance, but that the trader hasn't connected to their trading yet. It might be sleep, it might be what happened in their personal life that morning, it might be whether they had a losing day the day before. The trader isn't seeing the pattern because they're only looking inside the chart, not around to type 2. The knowledge execution gap, this trader knows exactly what they should do. They could teach a course on their strategy. They understand risk management intellectually. They've read the books, watched the videos, know the theory cold, and then they sit down to trade and they do something completely different from what they know. This isn't an information problem. This is a beliefs problem. Somewhere inside this trader, there's a belief that is more powerful than their knowledge. It might be a belief that they don't deserve to win. It might be a belief that the market is against them personally. It might be a deep discomfort with uncertainty that overrides everything rational. The knowledge is real. The gap between knowing and doing is where the work is. Type 3, the identity conflict. This is the deepest one and the least talked about. This trader has started to build a self-concept around trading. They've told people, they've invested time and money. Trading has become part of who they are, not just what they do. And because of that, every loss carries extra weight. Every drawdown isn't just a financial event, it's an identity threat. When the account goes down, something inside says, maybe I'm not actually a trader, maybe I'm not good at this, maybe I was wrong about myself. And that fear, the fear of being wrong about your own identity, creates a kind of psychological paralysis. You start protecting your ego instead of protecting your capital. You hold losers too long because closing the trade means admitting you were wrong. You avoid certain types of trades because if they fail, the failure feels personal. The confusion here isn't what psychological mistake am I making. The confusion is much deeper. Who am I if this doesn't work out? How to start finding clarity. Okay, so you've recognized yourself somewhere in what I just described. Now, what here's the most important thing I want to say in this entire video. You cannot think your way out of this fog. You have to observe your way out of it. The mistake most traders make when they're trying to improve their psychology is they try to think harder about it. They analyze their past trades in their head. They make resolutions. They tell themselves they're going to be disciplined. They read more books. None of that works at the speed they want it to because none of that is actually looking at your specific pattern. It's applying other people's patterns to your situation and hoping they fit. What works is becoming an obsessive, almost scientific observer of yourself. Here's a practical starting point. I call it the 3-layer journal. Most traders who journal only capture the trade itself, entry, exit, profit, or loss. Maybe a note on the setup. That's layer 1, and it's useful, but it's nowhere near enough. Layer 2 is your state going into the trade. Not what the chart looked like, what you looked like. Were you calm? Were you anxious? Were you bored? Had you missed 2 setups already that morning and felt behind? Were you in a drawdown? Were you coming off a winning streak and feeling invincible? This layer is where the patterns hide. Layer 3 is your body during the trade. This sounds strange to traders who haven't thought about it, but your body is constantly giving you information that your rational mind ignores. When you were in that trade, what happened physically? Did your jaw tighten? Did you find yourself holding your breath? Did you feel a rush of energy or a knot in your stomach? When price moved a certain way, these physical responses are not random. They're signals from a part of your nervous system that has learned to react to certain patterns that often predate your trading career entirely. When you start capturing all 3 layers to trade, your state, your body, you'll start to see things that no book could have told you because the pattern you're looking for is yours. It's specific to your history, your personality, your relationship with money, your relationship with uncertainty. And once you start seeing it even partially, the fog starts to lift. Not all at once, but there's a moment where you look at a note in your journal and think, oh, that's the thing. That's what keeps happening. That moment is worth everything. The role of patience in this phase. I want to talk about something that most people skip over in trading psychology content because it's not exciting to say this phase takes time. Real time. Not days, not weeks. Usually months, sometimes longer. And the reason it takes time is that what you're actually doing is building self-knowledge. And self-knowledge doesn't come from a single insight or a single session of journaling. It accumulates. You see the pattern once, then you see it again, then you see it under different conditions, then you see what triggers it, then you start to recognize it in real time rather than only in hindsight. Then eventually you start to catch it before it shapes your behavior. That process is slow, and impatient traders, which is almost all traders, by the way, hate it. There's this temptation to want to fix the psychological problem the same way you'd fix a technical problem in your strategy. You identify the bug, you patch it, you move on, but psychology doesn't work that way. You can't patch a belief, you can't delete a habit by deciding to delete it. You change these things by repeatedly choosing differently across hundreds of small moments until the new choice becomes more natural than the old one that requires patience. And it requires self-compassion, not as a soft, feel-good concept, but as a practical necessity. Because if every time you catch yourself falling into the old pattern, you spiral into self-criticism and shame, you'll actually make the pattern worse. The shame creates more stress, which creates more impulsive behavior, which creates more shame. It's a loop. The traders who make it through this fog fastest are not the ones who push hardest. They're the ones who stay consistent, stay curious, and stay kind to themselves even when the old pattern shows up again. So let me bring this all together. If you're in that place right now, that uncomfortable, frustrating, confusing place where you know something is wrong, but you can't quite name it, here's what I want you to hear. You're not broken. You're not uniquely flawed. You're not someone who will never figure this out. You're a trader who has reached the point of real self-awareness. That's actually a significant milestone. Most people never get there. They stay in denial. They blame the market, they bounce from strategy to strategy, and they never ask the question you're asking. The question, what is going on with me, when it's asked honestly, is the beginning of the most important work a trader can do. It won't resolve overnight. It won't resolve in a week. But if you start observing yourself, really observing with curiosity instead of judgment, you will start to find the answer. And the answer, when you find it, won't look like something from a psychology textbook. It'll look like you. It'll be specific, personal, and probably a little surprising. And that's the moment when the real work and the real growth begins. If this video landed for you, subscribe. This channel is for traders who are serious about the inner game, not just the charts. We go deep here, and drop a comment below. What's the one psychological pattern in your trading that you're still trying to understand? Let's talk about it. See you in the next one.